Hey y'all, it's Pierbot from Game Press, and we are here with another video. This one we are going to be specifically talking about the spawn mechanics. So basically, where creatures spawn in the game, and how they spawn in the game, and how you can find them. This is really important, especially with the amount of creatures we have now in the game. And if you're working on a specific hybrid and there's something you're trying to target, you need to be able to know where to go to find that specific creature. So the very, very basics. Not all creatures spawn in the wild. And what we mean by spawn in the wild is if you walk outside your house, you're going to see creatures on your map. Those are wild spawning creatures. If you run a gig ascent, those are creatures that can spawn in the wild. But not all of them spawn in the wild. There are things called exclusive creatures. There are two types of exclusives. There is battle exclusive and there is event exclusive. Battle exclusive creatures, whenever you click on the various arenas in the game, you can see what creatures are specifically battle exclusive. That means you can get them in battle incubators. Event exclusive creatures basically means you're not going to see those creatures anywhere except if they're featured in an event. Sometimes they might be featured in a specific scent. And then we'll go over the pursuit after we kind of go over the basics of spawning. But exclusive creatures can only be found in event exclusive events. So the map, when you look at the map, it's actually separated into zones. And that's what I feel like a lot of people are confused about. We've had a lot of questions about what do you mean by zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, or as we call them, locals. Local 1, local 2, local 3, local 4. So the map, there's two types of creatures. We have local specific, which means you can only find them in a specific zone, or we have global spawns. And Game Press has a fantastic resource on their website with all of this information. It breaks it all down. So we're going to kind of start large and narrow it down on what we mean by all of this. So global spawns are dinosaurs that spawn all across the world. There are 4 different types of global spawns. We have global anytime, which means these are creatures that can spawn no matter what time of day, anytime. Global daytime means that they will only spawn when the map is in quote-unquote daytime mode and dawn dusk. So day, dawn, dusk is what we call them. Generally, daytime is about an hour after your local sunrise and an hour before your local sunset. So in the summertime, depending on where you live, if you have a lot of daylight hours, you're going to get more daytime and anytime spawns. If you have more nighttime, for example, in the winter, a lot of places have more evening mode, you're going to get a lot more nighttime spawns. Nighttime is a separate category. So when we say night, dawn, dusk, that means you can only find that creature specifically in the evening mode, nighttime mode, which is about an hour after local sunset or an hour prior to local sunrise. Dawn dusk creatures, there are not a lot of them, but dawn dusk only can be found in that dawn dusk mode. It's about a 2-hour span between night and day cycles. Things like the Titanoboa Gen 2, for example, that is a dawn dusk only. Those creatures are a lot more difficult for people sometimes to hunt because it is a much shorter time period. So when we're talking about global anytime, for example, that means that that creature can be found globally in any zone, any time of day. Then we have global day, dawn, dusk, global night, dawn, dusk, and global dawn, dusk only. Those can be found anywhere on the map. There's not a specific zone that they can be found on. Within those creatures, we have something called short range exclusive. So things like Gorgonops, Oviraptor, Amphision. Short range means you can only see that creature whenever your little mini circle, the little circle in the game, goes over it. You cannot see those from long distance. Most of the other creatures you should be able to see from long distance, but short range exclusive creatures can only be found when you pass over them with your little circle. Note on the short range exclusive, they also cannot be scented. So you cannot use scent capsules to find these creatures. They will not be attracted by any kind of scent capsule. And then in 2.6, continental creatures were introduced. So those are specific to continents. Europe, Asia, Africa, Oceania, and then North and South America. Each of those have their own continental creature. They're all epics. You cannot find them if you are not in that specific continent. So that's really important to know as well. So that is kind of the basic spawn mechanics when you were talking about the different types of global creatures. So we're going to kind of go further, narrow it down a little bit. After you have your global creatures, we have something called local spawns. So local spawns are also broken out into day, dawn, dusk, and night cycles. But unlike global spawns, they can only appear in certain places. Each local is about 5 to 10 square blocks, but it really depends on where you live. And there is no map specifically. So you can't say, I live in Chicago, what is my local? Each city could have the locals broken up 4 or 5 times. The zones, we did find out, they are laid out in a pattern. So once you figure out where you're currently in, it should be easy to find out where you are after that. It's pretty simple. North and south, they run 1, 2, 3, 4. And in our Discord, we also have a pinned image that kind of shows the layout. It's very basic, and it could change. This is not an end-all be-all, but usually the local 1, 2, 3, 4 runs north and south. So, if you are in zone 1, you can move north-south and you'll find zone 2. So that's kind of how it usually works. But honestly, you kind of have to just get out and look around your local area and see where you are. Local zones rotate every month. So right now, for example, we just had a rotation on August 1st. First Monday of every month, they rotate. They do actually rotate in order. So they're going to rotate 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's a good thing. So that way, if you're stuck inside for whatever reason, you can actually see the full rotation of creatures. There's no way in game to identify what local you're in, but there's a pretty good way to figure it out yourself. I usually like to run a gigascent because gigascents attract local creatures as well as global creatures, but it's usually a pretty good way, and the best way to look is to see what commons or rares are spawning around you. So for example, if you get outside and you pop a gigascent and you see Graphititan, you're in local 1. If you see Baryonyx Gen 2, you're in local 2. If you see Fukuisaurus, you're in local 3. If you see a Diplocalus Gen 2, you're in local 4. So each local has its own set of creatures that you can then figure out what local you are in. This is really, really convenient because a lot of these creatures are needed for hybrids. So, for example, if you're working on Ankylosing and you really need that Stygimoloch, you're going to want to go find your local 4. And how you do that is just looking at the creatures around you. Compsognathus Gen 2 is in local 4. Dimorphodon's in local 4. So that is how you kind of look around and see where you are in the game. And that way you can then go target hunting. This is also really important whenever we're talking about our weekly events articles and videos that we do. We say, for example, Compsognathus is normally a local 1 anytime. So that's how you know when we're talking about a local, that's what we mean. That means that creature is only found in a specific zone or specific area in game. Once again, there is no general map. There is no map of this. You kind of have to get out and look around where you are and just figure out where you are in game and figure out where your zones change. So it takes a little bit of trial and error, takes a little bit of sometimes scenting around to kind of figure things out. But once you do, for example, there's a local Walmart I have. I know I can go there for zone 4 one month, zone 3 the next month, whatever the case might be. So once you kind of figure out where things are, you can easily go back to them. And that's how the locals are out. So speaking of scents, when you run a scent, you have the opportunity, the scents can either spawn global or local creatures. So that's what's kind of difficult. If you are trying to hunt a global creature, so for example, Tyrannosaurus rex is a really popular one. We get a lot of questions. How do I hunt Tyrannosaurus rex? You kind of have to just get out there and look for it. It's a global creature. Technically, if you run an epic scent, you might get Tyrannosaurus rex. However, you could also get any of the other epics that are global spawns, and you could also get any of the epics that are in the local that you are currently in. So global creatures are harder to target. They're harder to hunt for. Local ones are a little bit easier to hunt for. Running an epic scent should get you specifically the epics from that local, but it's not always guaranteed. You could also get a continental creature, or you could get a global creature. So that's something to think about whenever you're out hunting. To add on to that, we have parks. So park, technically in game, if you look and you see a big green area, and it's usually actual parks, state parks or local playgrounds, those are park specific spawns. They are a park spawn as well as they have a local. So it kind of gets confusing a little bit, but like if you run an epic scent in a park, you might get dodo, but then you could also get the local epic. So a park can be a local 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it's also a park, and there are creatures that are only park. These sometimes are very difficult for people to hunt because some areas just do not have parks. And then to add on top of that, we have something called hidden parks. For example, my neighborhood is a hidden park, meaning there is no green around me, but I get park spawns in my neighborhood. We have no idea how these are determined. Honestly, I know they use Google Maps for a lot of this, but the neighborhood thing is kind of odd. I think a lot of rural areas or in rural neighborhoods that are not technically in a city often get park spawns on top of their local. Park spawns do not rotate. If you're in a park, you're in a park. It's always going to be a park. However, that local zone will rotate as do the rest of the zones the first of every month. Okay, so we've kind of gone over global creatures and local creatures. Now we're going to get into daily dinosaurs. So daily dinosaurs were introduced in 1.7, and these are creatures that can only be found on a specific day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday each have a common and a rare that spawns only that day. They are considered global in that they are not in a specific zone. However, kind of like the short range spawns, they cannot be scented. So you cannot go out on Friday and pop a rare scent and expect to get Carnotaurus. You can go out and find Carnotaurus on Fridays, just anywhere on the map, but you have to go hunt for them. They are not attracted by scents. So that's something to think about as well. There are daily spawns are difficult to hunt for a lot of people, and there's some pretty good DNA in those daily spawns. So if you're out hunting on Saturday and Sunday, for example, make sure to dart everything you can that you see Echo or Stegosaurus or Irritator Gen 2 or Triceratops, because you're not going to see them any other day during the week. So event exclusive and battle exclusive dinosaurs, we have that list on the GamePress website. Even though our images aren't 100% fully up to date, our lists are. There is one other thing we kind of want to talk about, and that's nest spawns. So it's kind of like Pokemon Go. They're a little bit different. For example, this is a really good example because we get this a lot. So Gorgosaurus, the rare, is a Thursday only daily spawn. However, we have people all the time. They're like, I see this all the time down the street from me. If you have a restaurant down the street from you, you could be seeing Gorgosaurus. That is what we call a nest spawn. Now, not all restaurants have nest spawns, but technically you could find a Gorgosaurus outside of Thursdays if you see it at a restaurant. Same thing with Allosaurus, Tarbosaurus, Spinosaurus Gen 2, Tyrannosaurus Rex, for example. Honestly, nests really aren't a good way of hunting because A, they're not guaranteed. B, you cannot scent, so you can't go to a bank and pop an epic scent and hope to expect a Tyrannosaurus. That's not how it works. But you might find an Tyrannosaurus outside of its normal zone at a bank. So nest spawns are just kind of another way that they can spawn in game, but I don't think it's a really good way to, honestly, to hunt. I think sticking with the locals, that you know where the locals are, is the best way to look for creatures. But if there's an anomaly, if you see something outside of a zone that it's not supposed to be in, likelihood is it's probably a nest spawn. Okay, so we went over all the spawn mechanics, how spawns work. And on top of all of that, there is something called a hybrid pursuit. So it is actually in your news tab in your game. You can see what the current hybrid pursuit is. And basically a hybrid pursuit creature, so whatever's showing in that current hybrid pursuit, is a global anytime creature for a week. So for example, Dakota Raptor is a pursuit creature, and that's normally a nighttime spawn. However, when that creature becomes a pursuit creature for a week, it is available any time of the day on the map. You can find it any time of the day, anywhere. Exclusive creatures can be pursuit creatures, so that is another way that we can often dart exclusive creatures. So for example, Arctops has had several pursuits lately. It is normally an exclusive, but when it is a pursuit creature, you can see it on the map. And you can scent pursuit creatures. So if you run a rare scent on Arctops week, you can get Arctops. If you run an epic scent during Diplodocus, for example, you could possibly get that. And the pursuits actually go in order. So they're in order of patch. So for example, right now, we are currently looking in the 2.11 patch. We had Paracethops, Sinocodoraptor, and then Ovilophamoloch is going to be in this one. Then we're going to move to the 2.12 creatures. Then we'll move to the 2.13 creatures. There is a pinned message in the Game Press Discord, and we can also we'll probably also create an updated image for our website as well that has all of this information that shows the current pursuit, and then also what the next one we think could be. They're not in any order. We have to wait usually for Ludia to announce those. But pursuit creatures, once again, if you see something that's not quite where you think it should be, it's either a pursuit creature or a nest creature. So pursuits are a great way to gain DNA, especially for those exclusive. So keep an eye out for those hybrid pursuits to see what's going to be spawning. We mention them in our weekly videos. Like I said, Game Press has an entire list pinned in their general chat Discord, and then we're going to also make an image that has all of that information as well. So that should be everything. I know it's a lot of information. A lot of it's clear as mud. But, basically, if you're needing to look for a creature, global creatures, you can technically scent for them, but they're just more difficult to hunt because they're everywhere. Local creatures, you're going to want to go find that local and go look in that local for a specific creature. And, scenting is the best way, honestly, to hunt, but just driving around as well is the best way to get out and look for specific DNA. We have a lot of creatures in the game. There are a lot of exclusive, but there are still a lot of locals and globals that are worth hunting. So, whenever we're doing our weekly events article and you're not sure where to find a specific creature, go to the Game Press website. We have images and they are very clear. They're by local, they're by global. We have the nests on there and they're really obvious what is where, and we try to get that updated as soon as possible when we get a new patch with new spawns. And just having that resource is really useful, and it's going to better utilize your hunting time because time is valuable. And if you're going around looking for a concavenator and you don't know where to find it, that's the best way to find it, is to know what's around it, what to look for around it, and hopefully you can find those creatures. So hopefully that was some really good information. I know for a lot of people this is already very well-known information, but you'd be surprised how many people have been around in the game for a while and they don't know some of this information. So we just thought it'd be really good to kind of go over all of that. Once again, GamePress's website, go there for that link, for that resource. If you go to gamepress.gg and you click on nests at the top, that's going to take you to our spawn mechanic page, and it's going to have all of this explained. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments or come to the GamePress website or Discord, and we will be happy to help you specifically look for, if there's a specific creature you're looking for and you don't know what zone it's in, we can answer that question or point you in hopefully the right direction. So hopefully this was helpful. If you like this video or if you want to hear more information like this, make sure to give it a like, hit subscribe, and thanks for listening, y'all.